Hey, thanks for coming back for After the Hookup. During our regular chat in the hookup, we had a chance to talk to Paul, do some guy talk about some big topics that we don't get to talk about enough, I think. And our engaging chat and guy talk was so interesting to me. I thought, man, I want to dive into those for real, not just joke about them like we did as we had a beer.
Yeah.
Missing a beer, but we'll try.
We drank those beers.
We'll power through without the beer in After the Hookup. But you know, these are some big questions that I threw out there in jest, of course, just messing around, kind of making fun of guys, because we often don't talk about some of the big things and even the little things, whatever's going on inside. But I know you're open to talking about it, and I sure am. And, you know, let's start small.
Okay.
And you know, just, you know, thinking about your cancer experience, your diagnosis a little over a year ago, into treatment, out of treatment, you know, a lot has happened in a year. I'm really curious to know about the role God played or spirituality played in that experience for you and your processing of it and still now to this day.
Okay, so when I first got diagnosed with cancer, like, I'll tell you right now, I'm not a religious person, but I definitely toyed with the idea of religion, the idea of faith, and the idea of God when I was going through this experience. So when I first got diagnosed, I had many people reaching out to me from all over the island, and one of those people, his name is Jason. He runs a local church it's called the Local Church, and he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, come on down and let's have a coffee together." And I said, you know what, I'm going to go and meet with this guy, because at this point I thought I was going to die. And when you're facing adversity like that, you kind of look at other things. And so religion was one of these things I kind of looked at, I was kind of interested in. So I met this guy, Jason, who's an amazing friend, and he turned into an amazing friend of mine. And he's a pastor for this local church. And he's a really young guy, he's hip, he's got long hair, he's got tattoos, and I really connected with this guy. And we sat and we talked, and he talked to me about his views on God, and I talked to him about my views on God, and it was very non-judgmental, and we were just two guys talking. Guy talk again, right?
Beautiful.
And it was a really cool experience. And what I realized is being religious is you know, very similar to having faith. I'm a faithful guy, but I don't necessarily have much invested in religion per se. So to me, faith is having a connection with an inner spirit, okay? And having that connection with the inner spirit can happen in many different ways. You can have a connection with an inner spirit by working out, going to the gym. You can have a connection with an inner spirit by making music, maybe, writing poetry, or going to a church. And it really depends on the type of person that you are. So what I realize is I'm an incredibly faithful person. I have incredible amounts of faith because I'm always trying to connect with an inner spirit through my music, through my writing, through my relationship with my friends. And so that's the way I kind of process the whole faith thing. You know what I mean? Going and sitting in a church isn't really for me. But going and writing music and pouring out my feelings and my heart and my soul into my art and my craft is how I have faith, basically. And it was a really cool experience. And even to touch on church and religion and stuff like that and kind of suss it all out was a really cool experience. But in the end, I just express my faith in a different way. And everyone does that. And some people don't have these hobbies like music and poetry and art and stuff like that. And so what they tend to sometimes float towards is religion, church, and God. And that's totally cool. I totally respect that.
Yeah, I get it, totally. Yeah. So have you looked back and seen how you felt about that a year and a half ago when Paul's a regular young adult, got the job that he loves, rocking out music, and then gets diagnosed with cancer, and now a year later, do you feel the same way about it then as you do now?
You know, I have a little bit more, I don't know how I'd say it, I have a little bit more tolerance, but that's probably a little bit too brash, but a little bit more tolerance for people who are really incredibly religious and have a connection with God and stuff like that, because I understand that people have, God, I don't really know how to explain this.
Just say it. It's all right.
Yeah,
There's no judgment here either.
I basically, you know, I have a little bit more tolerance to people who are religious and have a lot of faith in God and stuff like that, because I realize that people are all different, and yeah, I have no problem with that. I never had a problem with that before, but. Whatever gets you through these hard times, and that's what it's all about, is just finding things that get you through these incredibly hard times.
And you know, you touched on something when you referenced your chat with Jason that I wish could be the number one rule for everybody when it comes to faith and life in general, but it's this non-judgmental chat that you were able to have with him about what his views were and what your views were, and that's a place I wish we could all be in, is just being free and able to believe or experience or not believe whatever we want, without the judgment or the attempt of control or manipulation from other people.
Yeah, I have conversations with people a lot, and I have lots of friends who are musicians, and I have a lot of people who will talk negatively about religion and say like this organized religion, I'm really not really down with it. And I always kind of go back to the question of why? Can you explain that? Why? And some people have a great reason why they're not really into that, and then some people can't really explain why. And I often hit them back with going to church is just someone who has faith, and people can have faith in different ways. Like I said, through music, through poetry, through art, or through going to a church. And it's a sense of community. And I have a sense of community when I have a jam session with my band.
Yeah.
But some people don't have that alleyway to experiment with, and the only way they can get a sense of community, a sense of family, is to go to a church. I've met so many people, especially at the retreat, I met so many people who weren't even from Canada, and they were here entirely by themselves. They didn't have friends. They didn't have a community of people that they could rely on. Yeah. So things like Young Adult Cancer Canada, this is almost kind of like a little community as well, almost like a little church as well, except we don't really.
Well, we do. We're on that track. We're in the conversion over to the church.
But you know what I mean. But
That's
you know what I mean. It's a sense of community.
But some of the other things you just talked about: community, non-judgment. The freedom to believe what you want and to be able to express that. We hope that those values are entrenched in how Yak rolls in the digital spaces and the face-to-face spaces at retreats and conference. We very much are community-oriented that way. So exactly, we aren't a church, but very much a community where people who have these two painful things in common of being young and had cancer.
Yeah.
But everything else is probably more similar than it is different about what you're talking about, man.
Kind of, I mean, what is the church really? If you take away the religious aspect, it's just a place for people to congregate, to bond, to express their common interests,
to connect,
to connect.
Yeah, community,
right?
Man. Yeah, I mean I'm gonna roughly get this right, but the longest study on human health ever, I think there's been 4 directors of this now. One of the biggest findings in the determinants of health is community.
Yeah.
And this human need, it's like a basic human need. And we say that all the time when I'm talking about Yak and making pitches to people, is people don't think about it that way, because for a lot of us in our life, specifically young adults before cancer, we find those places of community, whether it's through music or sports or work or family. You find those places. And then, as you know, when you're diagnosed with cancer as a young adult, you're the first one of your buddies to get it. So all of a sudden, finding a place where this new, huge challenge in your life is facing you, it's very difficult to find a space to connect with people that are like you, who you can connect with and lean on. But that is a basic human need.
Yeah. We all want to connect with people. We all want to share with people.
We couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks for getting real and honest and guy talk on that.
Totally, man.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that.
It was, it's a sticky situation. It's a sticky thing to talk about, because you don't want to offend people. I'm sure there are people out there who are incredibly religious that go to church 2, 3, 4 times a week, and you know what? That's totally cool because that's how you connect with an inner spirit. But some of us also do that in different ways.
Yeah.
And we all just need to be cool with that and respect each other.
I love it. That's right. Yeah, the non-judgment. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
No sweat.